what a joy. We now have Professor Marc Cohen. He's a medical doctor and one of Australia's foremost pioneers of complementary medicine. So we've got to give heads up and hats off to people that have really trod the path for us in that department. He's the Foundation Professor of Complementary Medicine and Program Leader, Master of Wellness at RMIT University. Would you please welcome Professor Marc Cohen.
Welcome, everybody. Can I ask a favour? Can I get you all to bounce up and down? I thought it was so cool yesterday, and you can even jiggle side to side and rub shoulders with each other. That's so cool. Keep going. I don't care about your blood flow, I just wanted to see it. Yesterday I thought it looked really great, and I just wanted to see it from up here. I thought it looked really cool. So thanks for that. Actually, I want to start. I want to start with Namaste. Namaste. Which means I honour the place in you where the entire universe resides, the place of love, truth, and bliss. And I recognise that when you are in that place in you, and I'm in that place within me, we are one. I just wanted to start with that. I'll come back to that as well. Sure, go back. We're here at the Happiness and Its Causes conference, and I guess you're all here to know why and how to be happy. Fair enough. 30 years ago, I was wondering about that same thing. I was deciding which course I'd do after finishing high school. And I think, what course would make me the happiest? And I thought at the time I'd study medicine, because in medicine you learn about life and death and everything in between. So I started studying medicine and realised they taught me a lot about illness and unhappiness and depression, but not much about happiness. And I went on this 30-year path. I'm still at university, but I spent 20 years studying Western medicine and physiology and psychology and Chinese medicine, Western medicine, and then biomedical engineering. And then I've spent the last 10 years at RMIT creating wellness as an academic discipline. And basically what I learnt was that it's really hard for me to be happy unless I'm well. And it's really hard for me to be well unless the environment around me is well and all the people around me are well. So it's my intention now to try and help you all to be as well as possible, because then that will make me happy. You get how that works? Hope so. So what is wellness? There's a lot of different definitions. Harmony between internal and external worlds, the state where you look, feel, perform and stay well, the constant conscious pursuit of successful existence, or living life to its fullest potential, being fully present in the moment so that actions flow naturally and authentically from the deep inner well of your being, and experiencing the greatest fulfillment and enjoyment from life and achieving the greatest longevity. Now, who doesn't want that? There was a discussion this morning about how do we measure happiness. Well, measuring wellness is probably harder, because wellness is multidimensional. There's not just one aspect of wellness, it's about everything in our life. So it's physical, psychological, sexual, emotional, social, cultural, spiritual, educational, occupational, financial, environmental, existential, you name it. And that's the short list of dimensions. If any one of those dimensions are in crisis, your wellness is in crisis. So how do we conceive of this and how do we use it? Now I want to share with you a model that I've been working on and that I use for teaching. And it's a model where you have a vortex with illness and wellness on either ends of this continuum. And you can divide this into different areas. Below a defined line, we have ill health. And in medicine, we define that line by a blood pressure reading or a blood sugar reading or a symptom pattern in the manual. In the middle of the bell curve, in the middle of the vortex, we have average health. You're within 2 standard deviations of the mean. You're not necessarily fantastic, but you're not complaining and you're not turning up with a disease. And then we have a less well-defined line, the dotted line, above which we have enhanced health. And that upper line is dotted because it's multidimensional. It's very, very hard to do research around that top line because there's so many different things to consider, whereas a lot of the research is done around that bottom line where we can have defined outcomes around illness and normality. Now, in Western medicine, we really concentrate on that bottom line. We try and get people from ill health back to average health so they stop complaining. In complementary medicine, where I spend a lot of my time, we move people upwards from wherever they are. So there's aspects of complementary medicine that parallel Western medicine and get people from sickness back to normality. But most people who use complementary therapies, complementary medicine, don't have an illness that want to be better. They have average health and they want to have enhanced health. And I would say that everybody that has enhanced health uses things in their life, in their lifestyle, that we would consider complementary therapies, whether it's their diet, their exercise routine, their relationships. So complementary therapies move you up from wherever you are. Now, the higher up you are, the greater your homeostatic range. We call that resilience, or your flexibility of response is greater the more well you are. You have a greater capacity to cope with stressors that affect us. And stressors affect us. We have things that bring us down. All sorts of stressors, whether they're, in every dimension there'll be stressors: financial, relationships, money, jobs, people, illness, aging. There are things that bring us down. In medicine, we focus about that a lot. We don't really focus about the opposite. The opposite I call blissors. They're the things that move us up towards wellness. Now, the whole field of positive psychology is now concentrating on that positive. But I think in medicine, we actually really don't pay enough attention to the blissors in our life. But when you look at the whole balance of that, that gives you a model for considering, where are the stressors, where are the blissors, what's happening with an individual, and we can look at that in organisational levels as well. And there's a great story when asked about the difference between illness and wellness. And Swami Satchidananda, who was the founder of integral yoga, was asked this. And he just went up to the blackboard where the words were written, and he went up to, forgot about the axis of bliss, excuse me. So within this whole model, we have this central axis, and in the vortex, this axis is the constant. And that's an axis that joins illness and wellness, and it's your immortal self. It's eternal, it's connected to everything, it's unchanging. It's a place from where you say Namaste. That's the axis of our being, the deep inner well of our being. And as I was saying with the story with Satchidananda, who was asked the question, what's the difference between illness and wellness? He basically just went up to the board and circled I and circled we. When you're ill, it's about me. When you're well, it's about we. And that just gives you a framework. And I did a medical degree and then 2 PhDs. And I did a PhD in Chinese medicine and biomedical engineering. And I was looking at information theory and thermodynamics and how they all related. And I'm going to try and summarise the essence of those two theses in one slide using just images for you. So hopefully it will work. So imagine you've got a descending spiral. I call that the descending vortex of terror. Some people may have looked down there. And then there's another ascending spiral. I call that the ascending spiral of bliss. And from wherever you are, or if you consider the whole universe is made up of these two spirals, but the universe is absolutely infinite. It's beyond thought. It's beyond comprehensibility by definition. And we can't conceive it, we can't speak about it, but we can be it. We can experience it, although we can never totally communicate that experience because it's beyond words. That's the infinite nature of the universe. And the universe is involved with cycles of destruction and creation. But the universe essentially is one. Matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed from one into the other, the first law of thermodynamics. But what we do, we actually limit the universe to say the universe is out there and I'm in here. I'm separate, or this machine is separate from the universe. And once you have a separation from the universe, you have entropy or disorder increasing. It's the second law of thermodynamics. You can't have perpetual motion. Anytime you've got a closed system, you have increasing disorder. And the way we living things overcome entropy is we have these cycles of transformation that transform order from our environment, from our food and the information we take in. We have these 5 phases of transformation that go through our body, and then we export to the environment disorder in terms of waste and pollution. It's a necessary act of living is actually to cause entropy into your environment. You have to do that to stay alive. And within that framework, there are some things that bring you down, the stressors that bring you down, that weigh us down in that role. And there are other things that raise us up. And if you look at the Lasada ratio, we need at least 3 balloons for every weight, 3 positives for every negative, just to be stable. And the ratio between the positive, the balloons and your weights, is where you find balance in this sort of spiral. Although ultimately, while you're finding balance in the spiral, it really doesn't matter, because bliss is accessible wherever you are, because you always have this axis of bliss. But that axis of bliss is your eternal self, which is at one with the universe. But when we talk about our ego self, the actual physicality of our bodies and our being, the balance is really determined by what goes in and what comes out, in terms of the whole world comes in, money and food, and what goes out, work and play and money and the world. So really, your balance is determined by the world. So again, you can't be well unless you're integrated with the world, and unless you haven't read the news for a long time, you might realise that all is not well in the world at the moment. I might not look that old, but I'm old enough to remember when this book came out in 1972. And they talked about then for the first time, peak oil was going to happen, the human population had to level out, we're living on a limited planet with the expectation of unlimited economic growth. It's not realistic, there's going to come to a head, we cannot sustain the current rate of human population growth, of human activity. And again, you probably read the news, but you know that there's climate change, and I'm going to go through these because you've probably seen that more than you need to. With 30% of its species to be extinct, we have a toxic pollution crisis. We have an obesity epidemic with 1 billion overweight adults. We have world hunger with 1/3 of the world starving, 3 billion people in the world living on $2 a day. 20,000 children die every day, as Peter Singer was saying, which is 1 child every 3.6 seconds dying from malnutrition-related disease. But then we have huge wealth inequality, where the richest 2% own 50% of global wealth, 90% of the world share 1% of global wealth, and wealth inequality is the single greatest determinant of health or disease. We have financial instability, rampant consumerism, and chronic disease to the stage where, at the moment, the biggest killer on the planet is our lifestyle. Lifestyle-related chronic disease is responsible for about 60% of all the deaths on the planet. And I said every 3.6 seconds that someone dies of malnutrition, every 0.9 seconds, 4 times as many people die from overconsumption rather than underconsumption. We don't have a resource scarcity, we have an overabundance, and that's what's killing us. And when we look at that continuum, we have 2 basic forces. We have the force of fear, which causes separation, entropy, blockage, entropy, and we have the force of love, which is connection, flow, expansion, being in service, pleasure, and causing evolution. And it doesn't matter whether you're an individual, whether you're a family, whether you're a community, or whether you're a planet. These forces dominate how you're going to live in the world and how well and ultimately how happy you're going to be. And existence is actually a paradox. We're both parts and wholes. We're a part of a greater world, but we're a whole within ourselves. And you can think about that as being a particle or a wave, like light is both particles and waves, and we're beings of light. We have our wave nature and our particle nature. But we're also participants, and we're participating in the most wonderful experiment that's ever happened, which is the evolution of consciousness. And we all play a part in that evolution. And we need to balance our egocentric, selfish actions, our particle nature actions, with egoless, selfless actions that stem from the deep inner well of our being. And imagine a world with 10 billion people practicing karma yoga, 10 million people in selfless service. It'd be a very different world. And if we look at the evolution of consciousness, something happens around 10 billion entities. You get 10 billion atoms and you organise them really well, you can create a cell. And that cell has a consciousness more than the atoms. 10 billion cells will create a mind. The outer layer of our cortex, the grey matter, has about 10 billion neurons. And 10 billion minds together can create a global consciousness. But they have to be very well organised, very, very interconnected with a common purpose. And we're building that at the moment. At the moment, we have the web as the most amazing connecting device. It's the most reliable machine ever made if you consider the web as one entity. And if you look at the web specifications, right now it's about the same specs in terms of information transfer as a single human brain. So if you look at all the computers on the planet at the moment and how they're connected, it's about the same processing power as one human brain. But it's doubling every 2 years. So what's going to happen in the world, which is not that far away, when you're going to be able to talk to your phone, and your phone is at least as intelligent as you are. And your phone can connect you to every other person on the planet and all the world's knowledge at the speed of light. That's the world that's coming. But what do we do with that? And there are two ways to think about it. You can be paranoid, based on fear and separation, and believe the universe is plotting to make you happy. Build up walls and try and amass wealth and security because you feel insecure. The world's out there, I'm in here, I have to build walls. Or you can have pronoia, which is the opposite of paranoia. It's a belief the universe is out to make you happy, there's nothing you can do about it, and it's based on the idea of love and connection. And just to let you know that both paranoia and pronoia are delusional. The world's not out to get you, the world's not out to help you, the world just is. But here's the trick. If you're going to be deluded, you can choose your delusion. Most people think that there's a default mode, a paranoia, and that's a reality. You can actually choose if you're going to be deluded, if you're going to engage in thought. You can choose pronoia, and it's a lot more fun. And babies, you think about babies, they naturally have pronoia. You know, they're fed, they're bathed, they're toileted, they're entertained, they're loved by their parents. The world is plotting to make a baby happy. Somehow we lose that as adults. But you need to realize that for every negative thought, there's an equally valid and equally powerful positive thought. In fact, there's probably 3 or 4, and if you look at the Lasada ratio, maybe you can find 5 or 10 positive thoughts for every negative thought. And you know you found it when you can hold both thoughts and be at peace. So you found the emotional weight of the negative thought with a positive thought, and you found that when you can hold both thoughts and be totally at peace. And when you're at peace, your common sense and your inner wisdom will naturally guide your actions. So you don't have to worry about what to do. If you find peace in yourself and your actions come from that deep inner well of your being, what to do is obvious. But we still talk about wealth inequality as being the most single determinant of people's well-being on the planet. Well, the idea of consumerism, conscious humane consumption, is what you need to think about every time you spend money. And when you spend money, you need to ask, before consuming anything, what's in it, who made it, where did it come from, who benefits from the sale, and I've got a minute left and about 10 slides. So you can vote with your wallet. Every time you spend money, you're spending money, you're voting for the world you want to live into. You can eat slow food, seasonal, local, organic, and whole food. If everyone did that, that would change the world right now, if we move towards organic revolution. Lead a balanced life, share your feelings, eat good food, exercise, relax, and just be. And knowing that when you share pain, it decreases. When you share joy, it increases. We can design wellness into life, and there's a whole lot of systems for doing that. We can connect with nature. It's one of the most powerful things you can do to actually find peace in yourself. Go with the flow. Follow your bliss is another really powerful compass that guides life. See everything as interrelated. Heaven, world in the grain of sand, heaven in a wildflower, infinity in the palm of your hand, eternity in an hour. And know that the microcosm reflects the macrocosm. As above, so below. The things that you do for yourself actually get reflected in the wider world and the wider universe, and vice versa. So you can, by changing yourself, you actually literally can change the world. Keep learning. You can sign up and do a Master of Wellness, and I'm out of time. But I just want you all just to have a thought experiment. Imagine a world where love manifests in action, where the planet's major industry is tourism, and there are only 2 classes of people, hosts and guests, where everyone has access to the world's knowledge and uses that knowledge to realise worldwide wellness, where the recognition of interconnection informs all our actions, creates healing for individuals, communities and the planet, where food forests and edible landscapes allow everyone to enjoy seasonal, local, organic, whole food, where conscious communities from around the world form around child rearing, and the current financial system is transcended based on shared love, mutual respect, and common humanity. So I want you to do me another favour. Can you imagine a world where you are as well and as happy as you can possibly be? Because if you are like that, then I'll be happy. Namaste. Thank you.